Well, folks, you know you're in for a treat when you hear that tune because it's time for another week of the Rec Poker Podcast. We're coming at you live on YouTube. It's episode number 571. We're going to be talking to Brad Willis in just a second. We've got a couple things to get through first. First of all, regular listeners will know my name is Jim Reid. I'm Bluffsterini in the home game and at Rec Poker Jim on the hellscape that we call Twitter. I've got the best freaking job in the world. I get to hang out here live on YouTube on Monday nights and talk with my poker friends and guests about this fantastic game that we all love so much. Join us here at 7:30 on Eastern on YouTube, 7:30 Eastern every Monday for free, and you can win a prize just for showing up. Now, before we start, I have to mention that we are brought to you by Running Aces, a fantastic hotel, racetrack, and casino less than an hour north of the Twin Cities. They are the official sponsor of the Rec Poker Podcast, and we're so glad to have them on board. They've been a sponsor for a long time. You can go to runaces.com to find out more about them. We're a largely volunteer-based organization. Most of what we do here is free, and so we really depend on the support of our sponsors and our premium members. We've had a couple premium members come in since last week, so I want to thank Christopher Ellis and Philip Dobrikin for your contributions. Your $15 a month makes a huge difference to what we do over here, and we're really glad to have you on board. I was able to meet with Phil just this morning because every new premium membership starts with a little Zoom call with me, just talking about what you love about poker, how we can get the most out of it, and to kind of show you around the site and see some of the great resources that we have available for only $15 a month, folks. It's a bargain, and you can get your first month for only $5 by using the code RecPoker at checkout. Now, you get used to hearing my voice because they let me host the show on Mondays, but I am just a small cog in the Rec Poker machine. I'm a mini little wheel. I'm one of the RECing Crew. It takes a group to do what we do over here. We call this leadership group the RECing Crew. And if you want, of course, and if you want to find out more about me and the rest of the crew, you can go to rec.poker/crew. But you can also just listen up because you're going to meet a few of them right here tonight on the show, starting with our own producing co-host, Chris Jones.
I'm Chris Jones. You can find me 5B5 on Twitter or 5x5 in the PokerStars home game, and I help run our monthly deep dive strategy segment.
I'm John Somsky, also known as Poker Geek MN everywhere, and I help coordinate our home games.
Hey guys, I'm Joseph Wills. I do the Be a Better Fish series on the website, and I am hockey_poker 702 in the home game. And remember that screen name because you're going to hear it later.
Oh, nice.
I'm Kim Kilroy. I'm Pat 33 on the social platforms, Fergie56 in the home game. And come join me once a month for a hand history review.
That's right. These are just a few, as you get a sense, we get up to a few events over here at Rec Poker. Every RECing Crew member has their own way of sharing their love of poker with the world. Kim's just one of these fine folks that's going to be over in Dublin with me next week, playing in the Irish Poker Open. Kim, you finally twisted my arm and got me to join you. You've had so many fun experiences over there. We'll talk about that a little later too. But first, it's happened, folks. We've got him. We got him. We sent out the hook. We reeled him in. It's Brad Willis. Brad, thank you. Well, first of all, thanks for coming on the Rec Poker Podcast. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, guys. I mean, your organization and everything you do is how I came up in poker and what made me love poker to begin with. So I'm excited to be here.
That's such a treat to hear, man. You have such an interesting life. Most folks in the poker world probably know you from your time in the PokerStars blog, which was prolific and had a great impact on the poker world. You're currently the editor-in-chief at poker.org. And I don't say this to demean any of the fantastic journalists in the poker industry, but you were a real journalist. Like, you had a whole real life career covering fantastic, interesting news events before turning to this love of poker. I'm kind of putting you in a box a little bit here, but I guess if our folks in the audience don't know the name Brad Willis, how would you describe yourself and your current role in the poker world?
Well, I was a piece of furniture at PokerStars for a long time, to the point where I wasn't sure they were actually going to throw me out. I started in poker, like you said. I was a TV journalist for several years, radio before that, and I got into poker at PokerStars because they wanted somebody to go down to the PCA in 2005 and write for a week about it. And at the end of the week, I looked across the room and I saw Mark Scheinberg and Lee Jones and Dan Goldman just sort of whispering to each other. I'm like, what are these guys talking about? And they pulled me off to the side and they said, would you like to do this all the time? And I said, how soon can I start? And 2 weeks later, I was in Copenhagen, Denmark. So I spent most of my time, I spent 18 years at PokerStars doing everything from being what was initially known as the web content manager. I founded the PokerStars blog back in the very early days because Mark Scheinberg said, we need a newsletter for PokerStars. And I said, what you need is a blog. And he said, okay, we'll do both. And we went forward from there. And that was back in the early days. I think BJ Nemeth and I were probably the first two guys live reporting in the fashion that people came to know as live reporting today. And we turned it into what it was. And then a couple of years ago, I got a call and said, hey, you want to try something new? And I didn't think I was young enough to try new tricks, but here we go.
Well, it sounds like it's going great so far. I've got a bunch of questions about sort of like the reporting industry and writing outside of poker and writing inside poker and the coverage that comes with that. I just want to remind our audience, if you're watching live on YouTube and you have any questions for Brad, please just type them into the YouTube chat. We're also going to give away a prize at the end of the show for our raffle to support a food bank in the area. And if folks want to help support our fight against food insecurity, you can send a donation via a super chat here in the YouTube chat. We'll get to that a little later on. We're also going to be playing Stake Study Stack with Brad. So enter some famous poker players' names so that Chris can get a good set of players to play with. So, Brad, I guess the first thing that I want to talk to you about is getting involved in poker from a career as a journalist. I often think of journalists as sort of being attached to, stations or news outlets or that sort of thing. It feels like just a wild departure to then start plying your craft in the poker industry. Did you have any hesitation or concern about kind of taking a fling on this, what at the time must have presented much more like a hobby to a lot of people than a real career?
Yeah, I don't think anybody outside of my immediate family believed that I had a going concern as a career when I left my job in journalism. I went to college for journalism. I was working at the third television station I'd worked for at that point, and I was pretty much the lead story every night. And but I loved playing the game of poker, and I loved telling the stories of poker. And at the time, I was writing under a pseudonym on a personal blog that I shared with a couple of other friends. But I wrote under a pseudonym because in television we had morals clauses. It was the type of thing you don't get a DUI, you don't show up in a bad part of town doing the wrong thing, and you don't get caught playing an underground poker game. And so I wrote under a pseudonym for a long time. And when I told people I was going to go write about poker, they said, as a joke, for fun? And I'm like, no, like they're going to pay me apparently. And my wife and I said, let's try to give it a year. And if it doesn't work out for a year, we'll figure out what's next. And so she kept her job long enough at the television station. We worked together there, and she kept her job there long enough to make sure that it was going to work out in poker. And I guess it did.
I'd say so. Yeah. So I'm always so proud of the people in the poker industry that have taken a flyer like that and tried to turn something that they love into a real career. Do you have any advice for people these days that might be trying to break into the poker world? It's a much more established environment now than it was 20 years ago.
In terms of poker content, I would never try to tell someone how to break into poker in terms of learning how to play in any kind of professional way.
Sure.
Because that's not. I tried that for a while, didn't work out so well. But in terms of poker content, it is a tough game to get into these days because in a lot of ways it's saturated, and in a lot of ways you have a lot of new, hungry, hard-working content creators who are coming up, whether they're doing short-form work in video. There's a number of young, brilliant writers who are coming up as well. But I would say that the one great thing about Eric Holreiser deciding he wanted to start PokerOrg is that it's opened up a lot of room for people who aren't necessarily either going to get hired by another outlet or in those saturated spots, they've got a way to find their voice. And that's one of the things that we're working on every day at PokerOrg is, finding our own collective voice and then allowing the people who work for us to create their own voices. And we have a wide variety of people who work for us who, some of them are, are wild and crazy, and some of them are a little bit more reserved, but I guess it takes all kinds.
It sure does. And I should say, I'm actually a member of the Volunteer Player Advisory Board at poker.org. And I'm a big fan of what you guys are doing, the tone that you're bringing to coverage of poker reporting, the kind of mix of news and editorial stuff that you guys put out there. I mean, it's really, poker.org has really come on the scene over the last couple of years. What do you think makes it different from some of the other poker news organizations out there?
I mean, I think first and foremost, it's independence. I mean, while every company is going to have to make money, right now, PokerOrg is not beholden to anyone. It is only beholden to its own standards that it's building inside, and that we have conversations about every day. Is this evolving voice that we're working to really shore up? We look very hard at what it takes to tell the stories in poker in a way that is meaningful to players and be a voice for the players, and let the players' voice speak through us as much as we can. And we still have a lot of plans going forward on how to do that. And I wouldn't try to speak for the entire company about what that means, because I'm just one voice in that group. But I'm really excited about a lot of the things that PokerOrg is working on over the course of the next 6 months. And Jim, I'll probably end up asking you to help me out in your volunteer role, because I got a few things you can do.
Oh, no, that sounds great, man. Yeah, I'm excited to be along for the journey for you guys. Speaking of excited, Rob Delaney, thank you so much for the super chat. $20 from Rob Delaney, who was our very first super chat donation guy back in the day of 2 or 3 weeks ago. Well, we got our first one.
Nice.
So thank you, Rob. We're going to share that with a local food bank here. I really appreciate your support. What a fantastic guy, OG in the recreational poker world. Yeah, so Brad, I mean, I love that idea. You guys have had a very natural place, I think, speaking from the player's perspective, and speaking to sort of parts of the poker story that are a little less kind of like text. There's a lot of poker reporting around like high roller chip counts and that sort of thing. But I think you guys really do make an effort to cover things that are more accessible to recreational players. Sort of that thing that we actually engage with ourselves about poker. Is that on purpose? Is that one of the mandates?
There is a great deal of mindfulness that goes into how we cover things, and again, none of it's set in stone. It's evolving every day. We know that. I mean, chip counts are like the score in sports, right?
Right.
And everybody's going to want to see the box score. Everybody's going to see who's winning. But at the same time, that accessibility is a really big thing. The poker is a sort of insular group as it is, but man, wouldn't it be awesome if more people could actually listen and want to watch more? And one of the things that I think about is I didn't know a darn thing about F1 racing until I started watching Netflix's Drive to Survive, and now I know I know what color underwear the drivers are wearing, and I've become fascinated with the sport just because it was accessible to me while I was sitting on my couch. And it's such a complicated thing. I'm never going to go drive an F1 car, but I will still watch the sport. I feel like poker can be handled in a lot of the same way. Going back, I've written the number of times that Ace King beats pocket tens in a hand more than I will ever want to in my life. But I'm never going to reach the point that where I'm done listening to interesting people tell stories. And I go back to like my first World Series of poker ever, and I can remember one of the very first guys I met was a rec guy out of Florida, who was a senior level, like he was actually probably my age at the time. He seemed really old, but he was probably my age at the time. But he played men's baseball, and his online name on PokerStars was Down the Line. But I became so interested in telling his story at the time that I still remember his name was Jim Hamburger, and you're not going to forget that name either. Meeting guys like that and meeting women who were like fighting in those earlier days back in it was so fun to tell those stories. And I never grow tired of telling people stories. I will grow tired of watching coin flips, and there's only so much talk about what the proper way to play is, and there's a place for that everywhere. Like, listen, just because it's not necessarily my cup of tea, there are guys and girls who work for PokerStars who know much more about this and are really good at telling those stories. But all of us feel very passionate about telling the people stories. Just this week, this is the night that I put the newsletter that I write. Now, you said, no, you don't need a newsletter, you need a blog. Now it's like, we definitely need a newsletter. But tonight's the night I put that to bed, and I'm writing about this young woman who learned poker from her father and grandfather. Now she's 23 years old, and she's getting a bag in a World Series circuit event, and she's happy and smiling. Everything's great. Like, those are the people that are like really exciting to me.
Now, the people are what make the poker world great. And, we've got some bad apples, of course, like any group of professionals. But I remain, even to this day, I remain sort of like touched and warmed at how kind and generous and thoughtful so many people in the poker world are. Do you have what was one pleasant surprise that you had when you turned from being someone who enjoyed poker to a poker industry insider? What was one of the things where you're like, wow, I didn't see that coming, and it speaks well for the industry?
I mean, I'll tell you, in the early days of PokerStars, the thing that fascinated me the most was that everybody was a poker player. I mean, they were like, Isai Scheinberg went out and found the best poker players for the jobs that he had at the time because he needed poker players to do it. And so a lot of the guys that I came up with are people that I became friends with and now lifelong friends with. Lee Jones is one of them. They were poker players. Dan Goldman, Rich Corbin, all of these guys were poker players, and that's why Isai hired them. And I came to realize that, poker wasn't just a bunch of leather-butted guys sitting around in chairs, smoking cigars and yelling at each other. And they weren't like some of the, I'll be honest, sometimes low lifes that I would play with in the underground games. There's a lot of hardcore, smart professionals. Now, these days, you almost expect that. Because poker has become such a serious thing for a lot of people that you expect people to be like hardcore and professional and thinking and nice. But that, I didn't necessarily expect that when I started. And it wasn't always that way. I mean, Eskimo Clark did not like me very much.
Yeah, well, yeah. Very much. I was going to say, yeah, you're on a pretty long list there, I think, Brad. Okay, so let's talk about, trying new things at PokerOrg and, trying different ways of covering things, different ways of reaching people. I feel like it's one of those things, and we do this at RecPoker, where we have our planning meetings and we think, oh, this is a great idea. This is something the recreational poker world needs. Let's jump on this and start putting it out there. And then it turns out that people don't actually care that much about that, even though you think it's a fantastic idea, very valuable. Do you have an example or two of that, sort of as you're trying new things at PokerOrg, where you were like surprised that the poker world didn't understand how much it needed this fantastic idea that you and the gang had put together?
I think you look at Sarah Herring. All right. So Sarah Herring, she's been on this show before, and
yes,
one of my favorite people in the world. She's been in the business for a long time. It's very easy to get jaded, right? It's very easy to just say, I'll just keep plugging it out. She comes fresh with new ideas all the time, and she understands a part of the game and a part of what people enjoy better than anybody else, in terms of every time I think, hey, who watches a 30-second video and gets anything out of it? And she says, everybody now. That's what it is. And so it was one of the things that surprised me the most is how well short form content does, and why, when done well, it can actually be very good and informative. It's funny because my brain thinks in gigantic, large projects every time. It's like I turned a podcast that was supposed to be a short book into a 27 episode podcast that took me 2 years to put together. I was fascinated with the idea. We did something called Runner back a year and a half ago or so, which was a promotion where we put a guy out on the road and tried to make him disappear. And that was a thing that I tried to get PokerStars to do for a long time. And it sounds complicated. And I'm like, it is. It's very, very complicated. Even folks with inside stars are like, that sounds really complicated, but let's do it. And that was what was exciting, is that they were like, and it was a really interesting experiment that I would really like to try again someday. But I think the public's appetite for new things isn't always as big as we think it is. But man, if you feed them the right thing and all of a sudden they want it, Instant Live is our product. Well, basically our live reporting product. It's not much necessarily different in concept than what I was doing at PokerStars and the blog for a long time. What's different about it is the new approach that we're bringing to it, to where you can watch the video while you're watching the updates come through, and you have all the various videos and social and everything go together, and there's this narrative that happens throughout. And it's a new approach that's not, again, just watching hands play out. There's always room for good hands, but one of the staples of how we go forward is it can be skimmable, but it shouldn't be skippable, and it should never be boring. And that's like, if it's boring, there's no reason to put it on there.
I love that. I'm hogging all the questions here, but if anyone in the YouTube chat, like I say, has any questions, type them in. If you're on the panel here and you'd like to talk to Brad, just unmute and jump on in there. Brad, how much poker do you get to play these days?
It's funny you asked that, because two of my best friends in the world and I, they, for a long time when I was really busy, they started going, the nearest poker room to here is an hour and 45 minutes away in Cherokee, North Carolina. And so we started going up there, and we were literally trying to plan the trip for this Saturday, but they're running a high hand promotion up there where they're dumping $1,000 on the table every 15 minutes for the high hand all day long, giving out $100,000 every weekend. So you can't get on a table. It gets a huge room. You can't get on. So to answer your question, when I was younger, I played 3 or 4 nights a week, live and underground games, and then played the rest of the time online. And now that I'm an older man, if I get up to play one Saturday every month in Cherokee, I'm doing really well.
That's a good answer. Joseph, jump in.
All right, yeah. You said Cherokee, so my ears perked up. I lived in Charlotte for about 3 years, and that was the closest one. It was a 3-hour drive from Charlotte. Where are you located?
I live in Greenville, South Carolina, which you probably know.
Go Swamp Rabbits. I know very well.
Exactly.
I've been to plenty of Swamp Rabbits games.
Guy. Back in the day, we had the Greenville Growl back in the early days when I was here. Got to watch them play in the ECHL and bang on the glass, and it was a good old time. But for people who don't know it, Greenville, South Carolina, if you can find Charlotte and Atlanta on a map, draw the diagonal line between the two and put a dot right in the center of it, and that's where I am.
Right. I was wondering if you've been following the progress of the Two Kings Casino, and I believe they're putting a poker room in, and if you can, kind of talk about that, because that's going to be huge and give Cherokee, I think, a run for their money and pull some business from them.
I tell you, I mean, that's one of the things about going after Cherokee, is that you've got everybody coming out of Atlanta, you got everybody coming out of Charlotte, Tennessee, South Carolina. If we were to go anywhere else, we'd probably drive all the way down to Best Bet in Jacksonville. So the Kings Mountain, it's been coming for a long time. For those that don't know, it's basically right on the border of North and South Carolina, near Charlotte. It's been largely like a slot casino in its early iteration. They keep promising a poker room, but if and when they get that up and running, you have everybody like me who could literally hop on Interstate 85 and be there in an hour and 10 minutes, only on interstate driving, not driving up through the Smokies or the Blue Ridge Mountains. It's a quick trip up the interstate. So, I mean, Cherokee, it's smart for Cherokee now to be running every hard promotion they can to get a good customer base. Because if Kings Mountain actually comes online at any point, I know where I'm going to go, at least until they give me a reason not to.
Yeah, it's interesting. When there's one game in town, competition isn't quite the same, doesn't put the same pressure on. They opened a new casino just in Toronto here, just north of the city, which is the only poker room for a few hours in any direction effectively. And they've got a 10% rake up to $20 on all the different cash game buy-ins. And that's hard to beat, man. I know we have, it's 15 in other parts of Canada, but 20 right here. They're not a sponsor of the show or anything, so I don't mind saying this, but it really doesn't feel like they're respecting the player pool around here. Is that yeah, please jump in.
I would say that Cherokee actually does a really good job. It's fair. They hire a really good staff. They've got a good room. Like I've been, especially they've expanded and it's now a much bigger room than it used to be. It started off there where you could only play on the digital tables, which was an interesting experience. But they've expanded now. It's a really big room and they hire really good staff. And I've got no complaints about it other than I wish I didn't have to drive almost 2 hours to get there.
Yeah, that does make a difference. In personal news, from what I understand, they actually opened up like a little adjunct location even closer to me with the same rate structure. So I don't know. They're really making it hard for me not to go pay this $20 rate. That's been my big complaint. There's no game near me, but I can't say that anymore. So you're not playing that much poker, but you're like steeped in the game. What do you do to blow off steam and distract yourself and do something fun?
I have basically, if I'm not playing poker or playing open face Chinese with my family and friends when we can't get to a room. I mean, you can see a lot of it on the walls around me. It's guitars everywhere. We will occasionally refer to this instead of the office. It becomes the studio because for my son who is a guitar player, my other son who is a drummer, my cousin who is a guitar player, like we can set up in here and play for hours and hours. And music, like if you give me a chance to run away with the circus and I got to be a musician, even if I only got a little bit of money, that's what I would do. And if I'm not doing that, you'll more often than not find me either plopped on the couch watching a baseball game, out in my garage listening to a baseball game while I play with woodworking games, or I'm at my son's games. Both of my sons are baseball players, and so I spend a lot of time, especially starting about now through August, either at games locally or on the road with them.
That's freaking delightful, Brad. How old are the boys?
I have a freshman in college.
If you want to,
yeah. A freshman in college, and the other one is in 8th grade. And they are both lefty pitchers, and it's been absolute ball for having a father who, frankly, just is not that athletic. They said, "Did you play?" I said, "Did you play sports in high school, Dad?" And I said, "I practiced a lot of sports, but I never really played that much." So I'm pretty good with a couple of words or a 6-string guitar, but I'm better off behind the backstop when it comes to sports.
Well, I'm so glad that you were able to have that with your kids and to enjoy that, passion of yours. You say you're not that athletic. I'll take your word for it. But I know baseball in particular is something that you've really been into for a long time. Is there a better feeling in the world than having your sons grow up to be good at this sport that you love and you get to enjoy with them and create this bond? What does it feel? How does it feel to be the luckiest guy in the world? I guess is what I'm asking.
It's absolutely the truth. It really is. I've gotten so freaking lucky in my life because I didn't expect to have athletic kids. I just didn't. And frankly, I mean, honestly, when they first started playing ball, I'm like, yep, those are my boys. They didn't know which way it went, but they just fell in love with the community, a lot like poker. They fell in love with the community of baseball, and that community made them better. I could get into the games and I could encourage them, but the community made them better, just like in poker. And it's such a joy because here's the thing: like I didn't play. I played slow pitch softball for a team called the Kinky Jalapenos when I was in high school. So there you go. But Spicy. That was about as athletic. It's like, yeah, very. I grew up as a St. Louis Cardinals fan. The first game I really truly remember watching was the final game of the '82 World Series. And then after that, I watched the St. Louis Cardinals all the way up through the strike in the '90s, and then got back into it a little bit when Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa were making their run for the home run race back in the late '90s. And then I got busy and I didn't watch as much. And so when the kids started playing baseball, it got me to watching baseball a lot more. And now I've got the MLB package. And if there's not a game on at some point all day long, my electricity's out.
Yeah, I remember I was a Jays fan since birth, growing up in Toronto, and they had just won back-to-back when that strike happened. And for a kid in his early teens, that just ripped my heart in half. That was it. I kind of fell off the MLB wagon a little bit there and started, I got more into the Steelers and football. And it's really too bad because that, it is a fantastic game. It's a great game. It's a great game for analysis, as well. That's very cool. Do you do any sports betting when you get so involved in a league like this? You know, is that called
I
to
do
you?
my best not to,
Mhm.
simply because I'm not very good at it.
Yeah.
I'm like I have a much bigger heart for a team than I have a wallet to experiment. And having watched the Sharps over time, I know that I don't have the stomach to withstand the swings that takes and the lack of
Mm.
control I have over it.
Hmm.
That is not to say that a friendly wager among friends come Super Bowl time, or if I'm up at Cherokee and there's a game on, it's right next to the sports book, so it's maybe just go over and just give myself a little reason to watch something. But no, generally speaking, I live in South Carolina where nothing is legal at all. I mean, don't try to do anything because nothing is legal here, and sports betting is among those things that is illegal.
So poker kind of has that same rap in a lot of places,
Mm.
but you obviously find it to be like a wholesome industry to be involved with. Are there some lessons that you've taken from the poker world that have helped you like shape your kids' view of the world, or to help raise them to be, fantastic citizens of tomorrow?
It's I think what I've learned in the poker world, and in general, just throughout the course of my career, is that there are so many mavericks in the game. And when I say mavericks, that sometimes comes off as with a negative connotation. It's not, but it's people who are independent. They're independent thinkers. There are people who are hyper competitive, and it's okay to be independent and hyper competitive, not just following along with the group, and the group think all the time, but thinking for yourselves. One of the things that my wife and I both preach to both the boys is, number one, be nice to
Mm.
people. You don't have to be a jerk to somebody to win. Number two, think critically. Just because somebody tells you something doesn't mean it's true. And three, it's okay to work hard and win as long as you're a good sport afterward. And there are so many people in our game who are like that. And as you said, they're bad apples, but when those bad apples actually make the people who do it well stand out even more, and so that you can root for those players who are so good. And like my hope for my boys is, number one, that they're happy and follow their dreams and their passion. I think when I was younger, I thought that I had to do whatever the smart thing was all the time, and smart at the time was just like the traditional thing, right? Go to college, get a job, do the thing, retire. And I've learned that's not necessarily the case. My old man was an entrepreneur. My brother is an entrepreneur. I hope both of my kids, if that's what they end up wanting, are entrepreneurs because they've got the brain for it. I think following your dreams and just that's how you're going to be a success. And
Mm.
that's not to say that people take the traditional route are not successful. It just means that for me and the way my brain works and the way my heart and soul work, you got to roll. Yeah, I can't. You can't cage us for very long, or we're going to go crazy.
That's fantastic. We're getting to the end of the interview time that we've got with Brad here. So if anyone has any other questions, get them in quick. I've got a couple more myself. So let's talk about kind of like the nuts and bolts of your job now with PokerOrg. I think people you hear like editor in chief, and it's such a big kingdom. It's kind of hard to say like, well, what would you say you actually do here, Bob?
That's a good question, right?
Tell us about like your day to day.
I bet Eric Holreiser would ask that question every once in a while too. So like, number one, while we all have titles and we all have jobs at PokerOrg, it really is very much all hands on deck situation. From the content creators that we hired all the way up to senior management and ownership, because we're not a big enough company yet that we all don't have to be involved at some level. But yeah, we all have titles, and I work directly for Eric Holreiser, and it's largely in a lot of the more strategic and planning roles going forward. I do have a voice in what the editorial looks like, and I do have a voice in what our overall product looks like. But my big picture right now is thinking about what we as a company and what we as a community overall as poker players looks like down the road, and the conversations that we're going to have, where we're going to have those conversations, and how we go about being fire starters and curators for those kind of conversations, so the player's voice can actually be heard. The last thing anybody wants to hear is me saying, this is what I think, this is what I think. I'm happy to give my opinion, and sometimes way too much, but people do want to hear from a large variety of voices. And like you and your community, you refer to Twitter in a way that I would not disagree with. A lot of the conversations that happen there are not any fun. And I think a lot of us long for the old RGP days, and a lot of us long for the old 2+2 days. Although, it all gets toxic one way or another. But is there a way to go forward and have those conversations to where it's more like having a conversation around a table than firing, rocks over a wall at each other?
I like that. Joseph, you unmuted for a second. I'm not sure if you're still there. Jump in if you are. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe. Oh, I guess my video went away, didn't it?
Yeah, but that's okay. We're coming.
No. It's important. It's important. I was just kind of.
Look
at that.
Nice. See?
Wow.
Go Swamp
Fantastic.
Rabbits.
I was not expecting to see a Swamp Rabbits takeaway there. That's awesome.
Look, my jersey and visor are up in the closet. I didn't go get them. Anyway, so I have a kind of a two-part question. Obviously, the WSOP is coming up here, gosh, in just a couple of months now. Time flies. But are you all going, obviously you'll be covering that, but like say the Wynn, Venetia, and Resorts World, will you all be covering those summer series as well? And I guess the other part of the question is, if somebody wants to do live reporting or work for you all in Vegas during those times, how would they get in touch with you or poker.org to do that?
Yeah, obviously, you're not going to miss summer camp in Vegas. That's where everybody is. We're still planning exactly how we're going to cover those things, but we also, as much as the World Series of Poker is the biggest summer camp all year long, and it will require a lot of our resources. There's a lot going on in Vegas. All up and down the strip. We've formed good relationships with the poker room managers, and we've developed good reputations for being hard workers when we go there. And if there's a big enough tournament that they need coverage for it, we do everything we can to give that to them. It allows us to stretch our legs a little bit and meet new people. It's so great. So while I can't tell you exactly what we're doing yet, because it's still in the planning stage, you'll see the heart spade going up and down. And in terms of working for us, obviously we're always looking for good talent. The best thing to do is to either hit one of us up on Twitter, or other than that, there is hello@PokerOrg. Or if you really, it's pretty easy to find me. It's my first name @PokerOrg. If you're looking for something.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, and I will say, like I say, I know PokerOrg seems to be your kind of organization that has their heart in the right place, and they are bringing a lot of really interesting ways of covering poker to the world here. So it's great to see that continue. It seems like there's a lot of PokerStars people over there, or is it upstairs anyway? I know you've got a fantastic group of up and coming writers and content producers as well. You were with PokerStars for a long time, and through a lot of changes in the organization and in the poker industry and in the poker world. Can you talk a little bit about what that experience was like from the inside, to see the poker world change so much, and then of course to see PokerStars change as well, pretty significantly in a few different ways?
Yeah, it was it was a wild ride. Like I said that my wife and I said we would give it a year, at a year and 3 months on April 15th. Well, actually, that's not exactly right. In 2006, during WCOOP, the UIGEA passed, and I was up late working on WCOOP. I'm like, well, I poured a drink, and I'm like, that's it. There, it's a year and a half. We're there. We somehow made it through that, and then we made it to 2011. I was on my way home from Connecticut on a plane, and a guy who worked for me at Star said, "Hey, will you try to pull up the website?" And I'm like, "It looks fine to me." And he goes, "That's because you're on a plane." And because down on the ground there was an FBI domain seizure, and I won't lie to you. Like, by that point, I'd been working for PokerStars for almost 6.5 years, and I got home and I put my bags down. I sat at the top of my stairs and I cried, because I thought that was it. I thought my career was over. I thought that was it for poker in general. And then I picked myself up and I'm like, all right, let's go back to work. And credit to one of the greatest entrepreneurs, leaders, mentors, Isai Scheinberg, for weathering the storm through all of that. Like, I have such admiration for the man because he cared about the players as much as anybody has ever cared about the players. And for people who didn't know PokerStars until somewhat later, they might not necessarily have suspected about PokerStars. But at its core, Isai Scheinberg believed in taking care of the players first. It was always make sure that's good. We'll lose money if it means the players are okay. But yeah, when Isai and Mark sold the company in 2014, those were some seriously hard years because, you know, for that company, outside of its reputation was doing the right thing at all times. All of a sudden, when that reputation changes and there's a lot of questions about how things are happening, both as a person who loved the community and as a person who proudly wore the PokerStars spade everywhere I went, those were some tough years. And I won't ever lie. And I think I'm never going to call out names. Everybody knows exactly how it happened, or at least the very basics of it. But from the inside, for everybody who really cared about that company and what the Scheinbergs and their people built, it was a real big struggle to go through those next few years. And I think, PokerStars has done a very good job at recovering a lot of its reputation in the last few years. I'm sure that it knows that it still has some work to do, but it's doing a much better job now. And I really hope that the legacy that the Scheinbergs built is something that is remembered much more strongly than what happened in those years between 2014 and a few years later.
Yeah, and it just goes, it's one of those days, we talk about Black Friday. You know exactly where you were. I was on my honeymoon when it happened. I'll always remember like pulling my phone out and seeing Twitter exploding that day. And when you speak about sort of the differences at PokerStars, I think you've said it well. There wasn't another online operator that had what they had at that time. And, that's just not the case anymore for a number of reasons. But it really, I think you said it well, like it really does speak to how important it is to have people in those strong leadership positions that have the right incentives for what, you're trying to accomplish. And, all for-profit companies, they can have whatever damn incentives they want, Brad. But it really does make a difference, and it starts at the top.
Having a customer service team that was as big and as well trained as PokerStars was largely what gave it its reputation. They set that up in Costa Rica very early with Terrence Chan was one of the very first people to work on that. And I remember at the time, actually just 3 weeks before I got hired for PokerStars, I won a seat, a $10,000 seat on another platform that I won't mention. But I didn't quite understand how it was going to be delivered to me, how I was going to end up going where I was supposed to be going. And I couldn't get a hold of anybody for 3 days.
Right.
And everybody at PokerStars, even everybody who worked at PokerStars had to learn how to do the customer service thing. And because if all of a sudden it was all hands on deck, it was all hands on deck and everybody was doing customer service. And that doesn't, I don't know how it works these days, but I know that back then it was really hard to go to another operator and try to figure anything out at that point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, it makes a big difference. I know I'm most of our customer service team here at RecPoker, and I know how daunting and overwhelming it can be from time to time. So, but it does make a big difference. And if you're someone who's reached out to me recently and I haven't gotten back to you in time, I apologize. We're all trying our best over here. That's fantastic. I appreciate you kind of taking us behind the curtain a little bit there, Brad, because it was really a monumental time in the story of poker, and you were right there to witness it. So I do appreciate that.
It was a glorious and amazing run through a company with some really hard days, but I have lifelong friends that came out of working there, and again, we'll never say a bad thing about the people who founded that company.
So now I will wrap it up here. I'll take one more question, and then we'll move into our stake study stack and closing the action. What's one thing about your current job that you really enjoy? Something that makes you feel kind of like giddy when you get to do it, even if it's not very often. What's one thing you really like about it?
I love walking into a room and seeing our team in en masse, ready to go. At the WPT championship, I walked in and Dave Woods, who is our head of news, and Sarah Herring,
Yes.
and Will Thomas, who works alongside Sarah, and TJ Reid, and all of our content creators. They're all there and they're hopping and they're excited. And we got the young kids that are like ready to go create content, and we've got the older guys who are like, man, it's really early still. But all of us working together as a team, and like it happening organically. Like everybody knows how to do it. And so when there's actual teamwork and everybody is respecting each other, there's nothing like it. I mean, it's like playing for a sports team. It's like playing in a band with musicians that get you. I felt very lucky to work with the people I've worked with, and just to be just to be a small part of an all-star team over at an up-and-coming organization. I have great optimism for what we can do if we get the full opportunity to go for it. So listen, poker world, let's not screw things up. All right. No other big changes, no monumental things, no earthquakes for a little while. Let's get our feet underneath us.
That's right. We were just getting the hang of this thing. All right. Well, that means that's the end of
something.
that's right. We got some sounds in the room now. A soundboard here at RecPoker. It's a whole new chapter in the high 570s episode number. That's when we decided to bring in the morning show soundboard. So that is the end of the interview session. Chris, you have been taking names, and it's time to play Stake Study Stack. Get started.
Yeah. So Brad, I loved hearing about all the camaraderie and the kind of the joy you felt and sort of like joining in the room when the team's ready to go. And so my job is to destroy all that in one moment, because I'm going to ask you for 3 names, Stake Study Stack, and they're going to be PokerOrg related names. So you're going to pick one that you want to stake in a cash game or tournament, one who you want to study or learn with, and one who you would just love to take all of their chips and stack them at the table. 3 names I have for you are Lee Jones, Sarah Herring, and Terrence Reid.
Oh, wow. Man, I'm gonna have to flip a coin here somewhere, because so how about this? All right. I'm going to study Sarah Herring all day long, because I still have a lot to learn from her, and whether it's in poker, in content, or just in life, she's got a lot going on. So I'm going to study her. Lee Jones is the biggest nit I know, and I know he's not going to lose my money. I know, and if he does, there'll be a damn good reason. So I'm going to stake him. And TJ, I love you, kid, but I would really get a joy out of taking every bit of money you have in front of you at least one time. Probably not going to happen. He's pretty good, but I'd love to try.
That's awesome. I would absolutely also be stacking TJ Reid 100%. Reid on Reid violence. He deserves it. Great guy, but no. Let's stack him for sure. All right. So Brad, I mentioned we're going to be doing our speed round. We call this closing the action. So I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions all in a row here. We're looking for short, honest, quick answers. You can say pass. If you get it right, we're going to know. And if it's time to move on, we'll know about that too. Without further ado, let's close the action. All right. That's right. The soundboard's back. Okay. First question. We're going to start it off real easy here. What is your favorite poker hand?
9-7 of clubs. I once played it terribly.
Nice. Is poker a gamble or a skill game?
It's a skill game.
What's your biggest poker pet peeve?
Guys who lie to me when the money's already all in and tell me they have something they don't.
Oh, yeah, I hate
those guys.
Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Oh, yippee-ki-yay. Yes, it is. Every Christmas Eve.
I told you there was a Bruce Willis could actually come in.
I like it.
Is Ace King a drawing hand?
For good players, no. For me, probably.
What's one thing that if you had it, you would be truly happy? I haven't been dinging. A bunch of these have been great. Sorry, just for whatever it's worth. Yeah.
My wife and kids smiling every day.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Hell no.
Is a taco a sandwich?
No.
Is a Pop-Tart a sandwich?
No.
All right.
A sandwich is a sandwich.
A sandwich is a sandwich. What's one thing that you are afraid of?
Being accused of something I didn't do.
Should vacations be lazy or busy?
I work very hard at being lazy.
What's one player you respect and why?
Jeff Kuhn, he is a nice guy.
Yellow light coming up. Slow down or speed up?
Younger Brad, foot to the floor. Me today, slow it down.
Is there one thing you can't live life without? And no cheesy smiles from my family answer.
No
Brad.
cheesy smiles from my family. I never think about it that way. So I'll say pass, but no, I mean,
yeah. No,
I feel like I need to be able to accept losing anything except for the things that we're not going to talk about now.
That's all right. I can't argue with that. I'm going to give you the ding. All right. Give the guy the damn ding. Are you a pro chop or no chop?
With the blinds, I'll chop them. A tournament, no chop.
Oh, okay. Now, if you're playing, and typically you would chop the blinds, but you have a hand that might win a jackpot.
Don't even look. Oh, no? The jackpot. Then maybe give them a little elbow.
Yeah, okay. Is there like a code word that you can use if you don't want to blow your
maybe not this time.
Okay. All right. That's fair answer. I think people will know what you're talking about. Who is your poker nemesis? Everybody's got one.
Nicest woman in the world, Jeannie David, who has knocked me out of every mixed game tournament I've ever been in.
All right.
Can't beat her.
Well,
cannot beat
there
her.
We go. Brad, thank you. That was closing the action, our speed round. We have one more question for you, and it's going to be a tough one, but I want you, and take your time with this one. I want you to imagine that someone has a gun to your head and they say, Brad Willis, looking back on your rich, full life, you have to go back and do one thing differently. What is the one thing that you would then choose to do differently?
Honestly, I would go back and believe it was okay to play music in front of people and sing in front of people a lot earlier than I learned to do it, because the joy I've had like performing for people and with people in the later part of my life, man, if I could have had that in the first part of my life, the amount of happiness I had would have been troubled. It was just, it gives me so much joy. There's no money involved in it for me. It's everything that I love about life in general, is just making music with people the same way I would cook with people or play sports or whatever, play poker. That is how I commune with people. And if I had learned how to do that and not be embarrassed or nervous about it a lot earlier in my life, I would have had a lot more joy early.
That's a great answer, Brad. And I think, I hear from a lot of our guests that sort of, I wish I had just not worried about being embarrassed or not worried about being nervous and just tried this thing that I love earlier. So if you're listening at home, try that thing, whatever that thing is, try it. Just try it. What's the worst thing that can happen? It's really not that bad. And the upside is pretty freaking high. So well said. All right. Well, folks, we're going to start our food bank raffle right now. If you're in the YouTube chat, be like our man, Rob Delaney, and just type the words food bank into the YouTube chat. That's all you have to do. And then we're going to draw names and give away a fantastic prize just a little later in the show. And just like I always say, I just want to say, if you're sitting at home and you got nothing to do, just pull out your smartphone and Google food banks near me, and you'll find an organization in your neighborhood that could use your help, whether it's a few hours out of your day, a few bucks out of your wallet, or some non-perishable food items from your pantry. You'd be surprised how many people in the world, maybe in your neighborhood, maybe in your community, maybe even someone might be under a little pressure right now, struggling to put food on the table for their family or for a child or a loved one. And it's just now more than ever, lots of people need help. And the best way you can get a high ROI on your investment in your fellow man is by making a donation to a local food bank. So go do that. But in the meantime, just type the words food bank into the YouTube chat and you'll get entered for a prize here. Brad, obviously, you've mentioned people can catch you on the hellscape that is Twitter at Brad Willis, and you're Brad at poker.org. What can our audience do if they wanted to like say thanks for coming on the show, that they really enjoyed your time here? They can reach out there, or can they subscribe to the PokerOrg newsletter? What would be another fun thing
I
that
would
people
love
could
it
do to
very
maybe-
much. The one thing that I do every Monday night going into Tuesday morning is put the org newsletter to bed. Our subscriber base has grown dramatically over the first 20 episodes, 20 editions. It is fun every week. It is where I get to be a little bit more snarky and a little bit more of my personality that people might not see otherwise. So I would love that people just went to the front page of poker.org and click that button to subscribe for the org newsletter. We try to provide something valuable there for people every week, and usually that's a laugh, but frankly, that's pretty valuable to me.
Well, it is. I can speak as someone who reads it. And my own sainted mother, Martha Reid, has re-entered the YouTube chat. She was struggling with the YouTube functionality earlier, but says Brad is an interesting guest. So there you go, Brad. High praise.
Thanks, Mom.
So, yeah, that's right. Thanks, Mom. Glad you could get back into the show. It's great to see you in there again. Brad, thank you so much. This has been a delight. I knew it would be, but it was great to get in your head a little bit. I hope to see a lot of you, and I hope you let me put a cold drink in your hand when it comes to summer camp this year.
I look forward to it. All of you, thank you very much. Really enjoyed it, and look forward to more episodes.
All right. Thanks again. Well, we're going to talk to John Somsky about some upcoming home game results. And before we do, I just want to shout out Running Aces does have their spring break free roll coming up on March 30th. If you have a player's card there, they're adding $5,000 into the player pool, and it's a free buy-in. There are some top-up and add-on options available for you there. And we even did a podcast episode last year about maybe how you might approach a free roll tournament like this. So go check that out and tell them that everyone at Rec Poker sent you. Go have some fun at Running Aces. But if you're playing online in the free home game club that everyone can join for nothing, and play with play money chips, but still win real prizes, you'd have to talk to John Somsky about what's been going on over there lately.
Yes, we had our Mixed Game Championship Series on the second Wednesday of every month. We play a year-long series that you get points for every tournament you win. And Michael Babker, got his first mixed tournament victory. Apple O' My Eye, Harold Berry maintains the POY lead.
Wow. Okay.
And then in our daily series on Monday, March 11th, we have Hockey Poker Joseph Wills.
What?
Won the daily TOC event.
Yeah.
Earning the coveted silver pin.
Oh,
all right, I'll see that in June when you're out here, Jim. Thanks.
Oh yeah, I'll bring him down. Congratulations.
I'll be expecting that.
Oh yeah, welcome to the club, partner. Nicely done.
And Jasper Jr., Pat Barry got his first nightly victory for the year. Jay Sedum, Jeff S. got his third nightly victory for the year. Duck and Run, Michael Savage got his first international victory for the year.
Oh, awesome.
Isma got his or her first international victory for the year. And then Stewie 13, Stuart Carriage, won the LPP event. So he can contact info@rec.poker for his free month at Learn Pro Poker.
No surprises there. I got a bunch of killers in the winner's circle. So congratulations, Stu. You know the drill. Send that email to info@rec.poker and you will claim your free month of membership at Learn Pro Poker, one of our earliest learning partners. Congratulations. Stu's another one of those fun folks that I'll be partying with in Dublin over the next couple of weeks. Kim, before we end the show here, I would love to know if there's one thing in particular that you're looking forward to about coming back to Ireland. You've had so much fun there over the years in this Irish Poker Open, and you travel with such a fantastic group of North American compadres, the Poker Friends Forever. Is there one thing in particular that you're really looking forward to about being back?
I think it's more the whole event. It's just seeing everybody again that you run into once a year. And they have so many fun side things to do, from beer pong to shuffleboard to spin the wheel and like a wheel of fortune kind of thing, and lots of fun stuff. So, and the music. I love the music.
Nice. Well, we'll be there in a week. I'm so excited. I'm looking forward to it. More hanging out with my poker friends forever. I'm still auditioning for membership, but I think things are leading well. Chris Jones, we're going to give away a prize here. Oh, first of all, wait. The other thing we have to shout out: the next two Tuesday nights, March 26th and April 2nd, are the final Marek Madness matches on Twitch. If you go to twitch.tv/RecPoker at 9 o'clock Eastern on Tuesday, March 26th and April 2nd, you'll see the semifinals and finals play out in our ladder style bracket, where 16 RecPoker members go head to head to see who will be crowned Marek Madness heads up champion of 2024. And we've got some big names, including one Joey Ingram playing in that group. He did advance through his first round. So you can come and see all the fun at twitch.tv/RecPoker. Come and check that out and have some fun with us. Chris, let's give away a membership here. I mean, Rob Delaney's number one.
Rob Delaney. I was going to say, we got to count Rob Delaney. He's way up the top. Okay.
100%. Yep. And then I see the RRCCC. Howie Guerin is back in the building. Nice to see you, Howie. Our own Stuart Carriage, K-Poker Wannabe. That's 5 by my count. Does that look right to you? Okay.
I got the old boxcar. 6 is a reroll.
All right. So, and if we roll a 6, I will donate $25 to a local food bank of my choosing. We don't have Joe here, so I'm going to spread the wealth a little bit.
Is that offer unlimited? So I should just try to roll 6 till the end of time?
Yes, it is unlimited. Good luck with that. Do it. That's what I want to see, and we're going to see it happen here on live on the show. All right. Let's see what the roll. Who's the winner? It's a 1. Yeah, Rob Delaney.
Yeah, I mean that's justice. That's justice.
That's how it works.
I would say.
I'm not the only guy who just rolls 1s over here. This is why you got to get that YouTube guest in early. You got to get that food bank guest in early. In fact, Chris, I think we should start saying that the first person to do a super chat gets the number 1 spot, gets pole position, because we roll a lot of 1s. We roll a lot of 1s, and you know, a lot of these premium memberships are worth a lot more than $20. I'm just saying that's a pretty good investment of your time and your money, and you get to support a local food bank. So I'd consider the super chat option.
I agree.
Well, Rob Delaney, congratulations. Thank you for your continued support. It's so wonderful to have you as part of the RecPoker family, as you have been for many years. Send that info, my man. Send that email, info@rec.poker, and claim your fantastic prize. Now, I think that's all that we have to cover tonight. If you're a premium member and you're watching live, we'll be getting together in about 30 minutes to do our forums edition of the podcast recording, and all our premium members are welcome to join that conversation over Zoom and ask questions and get involved. So I guess I will look forward to that. I want to thank the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino. Brad Willis, what a fantastic guest. That was a treat. Chris Jones, Kim Kilroy, John Somsky, Joseph Wills, and of course our fantastic YouTube chatters, my mom, Martha Reid. Thanks for coming back to the show, and the rest of you listening along at home. You're the best. We'll see you next week on the RecPoker Podcast. Good night, everybody.